Hello, FIBO friends and family. My name is Bob McFarland representing FIBO USA. Welcome to our webinar, Reopening Fitness Doors, a World Tour. We have three very dynamic global speakers today that will share their insights and best practices about reopening gyms from a global perspective. And if you think about it, Asia and Europe have had a head start. So if you're tuning in from the United States, we could benefit from their learnings. Moderating our webinar today is FIBO's Global Brand Ambassador, Herman Rutgers. Herman is also the owner of Global Growth Partners and is a board member of Europe Active. But before I hand it over to Herman, we do have a few housekeeping notes. I want to let you all know that we are recording today's webinar. Everyone that registered will receive an email tomorrow with the link. And also, we host the webinar on our YouTube channel and our FIBO USA website. If you're having difficulty hearing us today, please check the volume, make sure your volume is turned up. And if you're still having troubles, what you can do is message us in the chat box, which is located in the right side of your screen. That same chat box, feel free to ask questions through the same chat box, and we'll have time to do a Q&A at the end of the webinar. And it's time for Herman to take us to our webinar. Herman, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bob. A very good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world watching this webinar. My name is Herman Rutgers, and as Bob said, I'm the FIBO International Ambassador. I'm very happy with that, and it's my honor and pleasure to moderate this webinar titled Reopening Fitness Doors, a World Tour. In line with FIBO Global, this is a true global webinar produced from 4 different time zones. I'm speaking to you from the Netherlands, Sondre from Oslo. So for us, it's a little over 5 in the afternoon here. Of course, the furthest away from all of us is Ronnie. He's in Shanghai and he's burning the midnight oil. It's 11 o'clock at night for Ronnie. So thank you for burning the midnight oil for us, Ronnie. And then, of course, in Connecticut, where Bob is speaking, it's 11 in the morning. So 11 p.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. So here you have it, global representation. Now, I'm excited to have these two very, very world-class speakers for us today. We'll share with you their experience in closing down their clubs and then opening their clubs again. And many of you who are, particularly in the US, who are still in lockdown, will learn from their experience. We think that would be very useful. In terms of, before I introduce you the guest speakers, I'd like to briefly tell you what's going on in the world of fitness right now in relation to COVID. Of course, the US is a little bit less further evolved than Europe and a lot less further evolved than Asia. So we're all in this wave on the COVID. Now that's 15 countries in Europe have opened fitness clubs after closing down almost in every country other than Sweden, which Sondre will talk about in a minute. In the US, of course, there is a lot of states that are opening. Of course, and like in many other countries, it's the central government leaving the opening decisions and the protocols to the states or the provinces in those countries. In the US, of course, gradually clubs are opening. Georgia and Utah, I think, were the first, and many are now following. And of course, the more populous states in the East Coast and the West Coast of the US, where COVID has hit the hardest, there is not too many openings yet, but there is some light at the end of this very long tunnel. Chris Rondeau, the CEO of Planet Fitness in the US, said in the press this weekend that he's got now, I think, 50 clubs open, and they are almost back to pre-COVID number of visits in those clubs. And also they're signing up new members again. So that's a very encouraging sign. And I'm sure when Ronnie talks later, you'll learn about that from the Chinese experience as well. Similar experience I've heard today, fresh information, we're now in the second week in 5 states in Germany where clubs are open. And they're now in the first week, they were up to 40% of pre-COVID visitors. In the second week, they're up to 55%. Again, Ronnie and Sondre will talk about their opening staging in terms of the weeks after opening as well. So there is also some new members being signed up in Germany as well as in the US. So that means there is a pent-up demand for memberships in our industry. In terms of where I think the statement that I read recently is that the pandemic is temporary, the impact is permanent. And I think our speakers will get to that as well in terms of how this terrible disaster, global, we have an economic, a financial, a medical, a social, I mean, it is multi-dimensional, this tragedy that we're going through, and nobody had a playbook. This is new for all of us. No matter whether it started in China, they were not prepared for it, nor in Europe, nor in the US. And we can learn from each other, the pandemic going from east to west, but still you have to adapt to your local situation and really reinvent the wheel as we go along. So without further ado, I would like to not take more of your time, but really leave the time to our two eloquent speakers. So I will hand over to Ronnie. Ronnie Cai, as you can see in the name on the screen there, is the Vice President of Wills Fitness Group in China. It's the leading fitness group in China. And Ronnie is a very seasoned executive. He's worked in many premier brands in Asia Pacific, Fitness First, Pure, and quite a few others. So he's really, as they say, he has the scars and wears the t-shirt. He's done it, been there in the trenches, and is now in an executive position in the biggest chain in China. So Ronnie, the mic is all yours.
Hi, Robert, and hi, Herman, and everybody. Thank you for inviting me here. So, obviously, we got a slides put on here. So what I'll do first is probably go through the slides. Let me do a brief introduction of, the Wills Fitness Group and what has happened in the last, obviously, the last 2.5 months when we open, and especially during the time we'll be closing, what's going to be the future going to look like. So Wills Group, basically, we're the largest and the premier fitness chains in China. Next slide, sorry. So we have pretty much started in 1996 in China, in Shanghai. Sorry, next slide. Okay, yeah, so currently we cover over about 150 locations throughout China. As you can see from the map here, we're predominantly in a focus in China, in Shanghai, with over 109 locations, and the other 10 major cities in China here. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. So basically, with Wills Group, we have 3 brands. Okay, so we have the Wills Fitness clubs, and then we have also the W clubs as well. So the W club has yoga, Pilates, swimming pool. So we position ourselves as a premium and elite boutique brand in China here. Okay, so next 2 slides, please. And there's a bit of drag, sorry. Yeah, and the next one. So basically, predominantly, in China market here, what we have seen, the operator, just give everybody a landscape to understand the Chinese fitness market. I think the boom of the fitness market really happened in the last 5 to 7 years. Okay, and you start seeing a lot of big box international chains that start coming into China market. There's a lot of boutique studios in China as well. And then now in overall China, we have almost over about 60,000 clubs, covering only about less than 1% of population in China. So the penetration rate still very, very small. With the tier 1 cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, which is in the penetration range about 4%. Okay, and also another big difference and differentiation with China versus the rest of the world is that the Chinese consumer, especially for the fitness industry, are generally more towards prepaid membership. Rest of the world, you have obviously your auto pay systems, your class packages, But when in China, people are actually paying membership from 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, all the way up to 10-year membership upfront. Okay, so that's a big differentiation from China in terms of system versus the the global practice. Okay, next slide. Okay. Okay, so let me just give you a time frame of what the pandemic looked like in China here. So starting from January, this is where in China have officially announced the the COVID situation here. And then and this actually happened during the mid of the Chinese New Year, which is on the 23rd of January. So what happened is generally all the businesses, especially fitness industry, generally closed for basically 1 week during that time. So on the 25th of January, you can see basically across entire China, all the fitness industry are pretty much shut down. And at the time, obviously we don't know when is the time when we can be reopening again. So at the first stage was about on the 9th of February, but eventually it got delayed again because the case is still rising. So not only until March 10 is where the situation kind of like contained it, and then eventually the clubs are based on phase by phase stages and allow them to be open. So what I can show you next on the next slide, okay, I can show you what are some of the government rules and regulations before any club can be opening, because there's obviously every city have different rules, and different level of COVID cases. But in general, there's this is a key point here. So basically, all the employees in China here, like not just for the fitness industry, across the board, they need to pass a 14-day quarantine. And I think it's a very common practice now in many countries as well. So the club must have a natural air circulation and ventilation, natural windows. So what you're seeing is some of the clubs that is under in the basement of the mall, that sort of stuff. Okay, they're basically not subject for opening during the time. And then we have to provide extra sanitization stations. And then everyone need to must wearing a mask. This is for members and also for staff. In China, we also have what we call a QR code check-in. So we use an app called the WeChat app, okay, which can track where you are and where have you been and have you been quarantined. And I know some of the system in globally also try to mimic something similar. And then the other one is the temperature check. So basically everywhere you can see go throughout China right now during the closure period is that everywhere must check temperature as well. And it's 37 degrees Celsius. Okay, so you're gonna convert that to Fahrenheit. So if you're above that line, basically you are rejected to going anywhere, and that's the same for gym as well. Now in the fitness industry, we basically have a check-in limit. So basically what we have implemented is for every single club in China here is based on your peak hours. Okay, for example, your club peak hours is about 200 check-in at the time at that given moment. So the limit is only at 50% of that. That's your capacity at any hours you're allowed to give member to check in. Okay, and that goes the same for the group exercise capacity limit as well. So that's at 50% capacity as well. For example, you have 30 room of 30 capacity. Okay, so you're only allowed to have 15 people allowed to go in. And then of course we have the social distancing, and the distancing rules in China is about 1.5 meters. Okay, swimming pool and obviously sauna and steam room are obviously remain shut. So these are 10 key criteria is presented by the government. Now of course you see like a different operators, for them to open up, they have to meet this minimum criteria. Now I think the difference is come down to bigger brand or smaller brand, how much more do they want to do in their operations. So you see some company to go extra mile to buying air ventilators and also air purifier systems. So we see all different type of practices, but in general these 10 points are the key area. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, so give you some ideas of what does it look like as well. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide. Okay, so I'll keep talking while the slides are moving. Yeah, so what we have seen basically is that when we're opening the club, I think there's three key phases, right? So generally it's the closing phase. So the closure phase is pretty much a majority of the world right now, okay, with the exception of some Scandinavian country. Hong Kong just opened up, and Vietnam, if I'm not wrong, is opening up, and that's pretty much it, right? So closure phase is actually a critical time frame, because we're going to making sure that negotiating rental, ensuring the communication with all our members and customers properly, so they know exactly what's going on. We give them free suspension of the membership, and see that's common global practice at the moment right now. And eventually we're going to the second phase, which is the pre-opening. And I think in the US particularly now is different state by state. You start getting the green signal to start opening the club soon. So then, before you're opening, there's a lot of preparation to go into it, and I think this is a critical part. So how much communication are you communicating with the member? How much lead generation are you doing online? And what sort of protocol have you been implemented in the club? I've seen, like for example, like Chris Rondeau's Planet Fitness. They have all the training manual in place, all the video are broadcasting everywhere. I think the more information that is sending out to your customer about the transparency of what you have done to ensure their safety, the better. And I think this is the big bulk of this preparation stage. And then on the last part is basically the opening stage, okay? Because when you open, I think the key part to that is the operation excellence and the execution part. Sometimes when we're planning this, doesn't mean that when we actually facing the reality and it happened to what we planned. Okay, so I think to making sure the execution of your plan are very, very critical. I think this is where we have the mandating that every member are equal. Okay, there's no spatial favor. If that's the rule, that is the rule. Okay, but the key is that you have to communicate that early on, so everybody are made aware of it and what you're gonna do. Okay, so you can see on the slides here some of the social distancing equipment. So I think the cardio area, what we've learned, is much easier, because all you do is switch off the equipment in between. You put a sign on that, okay, and that automatically space out almost about 1.5 meters apart. For your treadmills, your cardio equipment like your cross trainers, your rowers, that sort of stuff. And that's very similar to your cycling studio if in a group class spaces. Okay. Now, what is a bit more challenging, I would say, is on your free weights area, and this is something that we've learned, because on the free weights area, people are moving around. Okay. So what we have seen, some of the practice in some of the gyms here is that then they mandated the equipment such as the bench press, okay, the small benches, they can't move out from the designated area. Because sometimes on the freeway area is that some members will go in and move the chairs here and there. But what we have done and we've seen been done is that they put a cross on there or a little box in, whatever equipment stays where it is, okay? So that was some of the best practices we have seen. And then for the fixed equipment station, like all your all your leg press machines, leg curl machine, all that sort of stuff. Okay, those one depending the size of your gym, the big box generally have less issue because they have the size, right? So what they did is they basically spread apart of the equipment. So I think the facility manager and the fitness manager have to really think carefully on where each equipment need to reshape and where they're gonna be. Okay. I think one of the challenge here is the group exercise, because what we have seen and what we've learned is that from the group exercise space, like for example, GX Studio, certain class is a little bit more challenging to control the distancing, right? So for example, if you're running a body combat class, okay, or body jam or a Zumba class, okay, the challenge of having 15 members with a confined space and with the instructor teach them to go left and right, front and back, it's very hard for them to monitor that distance, right? So I think come down to the scheduling of what type of classes are very, very critical. So you start seeing a lot of operators start using fixed station classes like yoga class, because you can distance the mat exactly how you want it, right? Body pump classes, because you have your stations, right? So I think choosing and selecting the right classes is very important. But then on the other part of what we have learned as well is how you cleaning those equipment, right? So for example, before COVID, you don't need to clean a body pump class maybe until the day is over, right? But now all your equipment need to be cleaned on an hourly basis or 2-hour basis. So then what you have is you have a back-to-back class or like a body pump and another class in the same studio, okay? You have to make sure your body pump class got to be the last class, because otherwise there's not enough time for someone to clean every single part of the equipment. So I think all this operational protocol, it becomes very, very important when you actually start running the operations. So all this detail is quite critical. Sorry, the next slide. So the next couple of slides is basically all about social distancing and what the employees have been doing. So for us, basically, we have mandated the employees and members must wearing a mask. Okay. Now for our employees, we're actually providing masks ourselves. Okay, and for personal trainers, even glove. But that's because in China we can get a much cheaper rate here, right, to provide that. But if you consider in the US or in a European country, by the time when you import in the mask or the whatever glove over there, that cost become a lot higher than what you get domestically in China. So that become a very big operational cost. So you have to really consider what type of brand and mask that is suitable for you guys as well. So what we have seen here is that all the trainers, when they're training their clients, they must wipe down, clean all the equipment. We're providing extra sanitization stations in all our locations, and we'll make it very, very clear with our members that and it's part of your gyms. So after your workout, make sure you try to clean it. So there's a lot of broadcastings, and like we're on our sound systems, we have videos just to educating our members and ensure they obey the rule as well. Okay. So in general, like we've been open about 2.5 months in China now. You start seeing like a kind of mixed type of result. You see business that obviously wasn't strong enough in cash flow, not strong enough in operation experience. They are obviously facing a lot of challenges. But then you can start seeing some of the business that have well prepared. They went through, in China, one of the advantage I would say is that we have experienced SARS in 2003. And that's probably the closest it gets to COVID, right? Even though it's not as severe, but a lot of learning that we have, a lot of protocol was very, very similar to what happened in SARS time. I mean, just a longer length of period. So operators actually went through and had that experience, obviously, have a much better advantage, okay? But overall, the check-in are slightly, climbing back up. Sales start happening as well. And the online business, I think, having a massive growth in China as well. You can see the industry having a lot of online business as well. So I think overall, I think the future should be bright, because I think our industry, to be honest, we are a industry as part of the solution for COVID, to be honest. And I've been hearing this, that people fearing about going to gym. They worry about gym is easy to get sick. But I actually think the complete opposite. I think now, if you look at all the gym industry across the world, the preparation that we go into it, the amount of cleanliness, the control put in place, I think we are more stricter than any other, industry out there, right? So I think, first, we can't be too worried. We have to ensure that our customers not to be too worried, okay? We are part of the solution. And I think our industry will actually rebound stronger than ever in the future, okay? So that's pretty much on my side here for China, the fitness industry here. And here's some of the slides.
Thank you, Ronnie. Can you mention a little bit about the digital solution that you provided? In other words, here in Europe, for instance, many operators were scrambling to have a digital option. They were not prepared for offering an online solution for their members. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did and maybe your competitors did in China in terms of the digital solution?
Yeah. So I think the digital solution here in China, in general, the digital solution are quite advanced. I think we have a lot of like small systems, a lot of apps here to support a lot of businesses. So you can see since the COVID hit China, a lot of operators are using, we call it like a TikTok. We have our own WeChat programs, mini programs that link into our overall systems as well. So we start seeing a lot of live programs, a lot of live classes. Our staff also do a lot of engagement through PTs and engagements. So we see that's pretty much across the board in China here. But one of the things that I want to share is that if you want to develop a very robust online systems or online program, that actually is quite an enormous investment. Okay, now we're not saying to Peloton as example, they're using almost about 120 million worth of investment into their content development. Okay, it's actually quite a big work to have your business to develop a complete online technology to support your product. Okay, so I think first of all, right now with a lot of company are obviously try to cost control, and then now you're going to take a huge chunk of fund to develop an online program, so something that had to be really think through. But it depending the level of the ability that business can able to do that is quite critical. Like a smaller mom and pop shop would be quite challenging, that they probably can go to something like your Facebook, your YouTube, like your Instagram, things like that. You can do something similar to that. But to develop a system, IT system, that takes a lot of fun and a lot of effort, a lot of time as well.
Yeah. Did you develop something yourself, or did you use a third party to do your virtual exercises?
Oh no, we all do it in house. Like we have like IT departments. And I think China is relatively quite simple here. The system are pretty advanced over here as well. So make the online and a lot of people are quite like a favorite with online shopping and also in China. That the consumer behavior in China are really online focused. So that was a bit of an advantage for us as well.
Did you see the use of the online go up dramatically when you closed the club, had to close the clubs?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that there wasn't really much other choices, I would say, because when the club is closed and no one allowed to leave the house, and people, the only option is going to online. But I think the benefit here is that, because we were making sure all our members need to download our apps. Every members have to go online to go to our program, right? So I think what that said is that for the future when business back to normal, all our members have our app now. Everybody engaged through our online systems. Okay, so in the future when we want to marketing our business, when we engage our customer, it become easier. Whereas previously, not everybody in your member base downloading the app and using the app, right? So I think this COVID kind of changed that behavior a little bit more.
Yeah, because you were closed for about what, 8 to 10 weeks, the total closing
about
of
2.5 months. Yeah, about that.
And now you've been open again 2.5 months, right? 8 to 10 weeks open.
Correct.
Are you back to normal? Is your visitor number of visitors in the business almost back to normal, or 80%, or what would you say?
Yeah, I would say, in China overall, like I think the general business are getting back about 70-80% range, in general, in check-in and overall, performance, that sort of stuff. But I think, the COVID is not a simple matter, like I think globally, with the exception of some of the online business like Pelotons or things like that, I think for the gym business, you're not gonna find many operators can say that we are doing great versus last year or doing better than last year. I think this year definitely is gonna be a challenge year ahead. I think we're just gonna be very we gotta keep our heads up and have the tenacity to really fight through for the remaining of the year, focusing the basic and do what's right, focusing the great customer service, and hopefully we can make up for the remaining of the year, and that depending on each country when are they opening, right?
No, very good, Ronnie. I'll save some questions probably for later for you. I would like to then switch to, we're going from east to west geographically to Scandinavia. Sondre is the CEO of SATS, which is by far the leading fitness operator in the Nordic countries. He will explain a little bit more about his company in his presentation. But Sondre is unique in the sense that in some of his countries there was a forced closure by the government, and he went through a self-imposed closure in Sweden and then reopened again, I think after 2 weeks, having been closed in Sweden. So Sondre, I'm looking forward to your presentation. Please take over the floor and and the mic here.
Thanks a lot, Herman, and hi everyone, and thanks for joining in on this webinar. I'll just share up my screen here. If you are not on mute, Herman, can you now see the screen in a good way?
Yes, yes, it's good. It's good.
Okay, great, thank you. So yes, everyone, my name is, as Herman said, it's Sondre. I'm based in Oslo, where we have the headquarters of SATS, and many of you probably haven't heard about SATS, but SATS we're basically the leading operator in the Nordics. So we are based in Oslo, but have clubs in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, and we're the #1 operator in terms of revenue in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and then #2 in Denmark after Fitness World. So as you can see, just highlighting the numbers here, so we get the feeling of our size, around just below 250 clubs and just below 700,000 members. And then, of course, we also been severely affected, as all of you, of the spread of COVID-19 across the globe. This is just a timeline indicating, how it looks like in the Nordic for our operation. So basically, we started out quite early in February with restrictions in our clubs, new operational routines, etc., and also quite strong restrictions in terms of quarantining employees that have been traveling to other affected countries, especially in other parts of Europe. And then we temporarily announced the closing of all the clubs early morning, 12th of March. And then that was something we did voluntarily in all countries, as we saw the spread of COVID in the countries being quite fast. We also got, several clubs where we had confirmed corona cases in the past few days before March 12th, where we had to close down the club and also, of course, take measures with communicating to members that had been in the club, etc. And then we got pretty clear signals from the different governments that, strong actions would be taken. So we decided then proactively ourselves to close all clubs in all 4 countries in order to make sure that that we could, because we didn't believe we could maintain a safe enough environment for employees and members in the situation, and also we expected to be forced closing down pretty short while. And that was actually happened in Norway. Then later the same day, actually, the whole industry was closed in the afternoon. And then the week after, the Danish and partly the Finnish government followed. And then, as some of you might know, the Swedish government have taken somewhat a different approach than most other governments in Europe, but also a different approach than the other Nordic governments, where they basically have not been shutting down any industries, and actually they have been advocating for people to stay active and work out also through the pandemic. So we reopened in Sweden then after being closed for 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks we announced for the closing, and then we opened up the clubs again in Finland towards the end of April. And then I think, what I will focus on in this presentation is quite a lot around also some of experiences, of course, after opening the clubs, but how important it is to also, see the opportunities that are created by this situation. So when we closed down the clubs March 12 in the morning, we were extremely focused on, of course, handling the crisis in a good way, making sure that you close the clubs in a good way, you communicate with members in a good way, you bring down the costs as soon as possible. We had all the employees in Norway, for example, 4,500 employees temporarily laid off within 24 hours after closing the clubs to take down the cash burn rate. We also secured a new long-term financing the same day with the bank, so we had cash on the account because we were, we expected this crisis to be lasting for quite a long time, so we wanted to be in a strong financial position. So that was also the immediate focus we had. But then in parallel to this, we also established a team not focusing, so to say, on crisis handling, but more to start already from day one to plan how we could also see the opportunities arising from this, both in terms of our digital product offering and in terms of how we could reopen in a safe way. And the status today is basically that, as I said, we have been operating in Sweden for a while. I will come back to the experiences there. We opened in Finland by the end of April, after being closed for 1.5 months. Our plan is to open together with the rest of the industry, all the clubs in Norway, June 15th. And then for Denmark, there's still no opening date announced yet. So far, it looks like it will be in August. Then I want to focus a little bit on how we have dealt with the digital product offering during the period where we have been closed, and how we have communicated with members. So basically, we gave the members pretty early on. We decided that we will not just freeze all the memberships and stop payments. We will give the members a wide range of options to choose from, and basically we ended up giving them 4 concrete options. We introduced a digital membership, where basically if you chose that, you get access to the full SATS digital universe, and I will come back to that, and you only pay for this access. This was a part of the product offering we had included in the membership before COVID-19. Hence, that's why we said that, you know, we will increase the focus on this part of the membership, and then of course reduce significantly the monthly membership price. You could, you know, continue to paying and get a gift card in our retail shops that you could use when the clubs open. You could of course just freeze your membership with immediate effect and then stop paying. Or you could actually also then choose to, you know, continue to pay, have access to the digital offering, but continue to pay the full membership. And then of course the majority, we didn't get so many members choosing the latter option, but some did, absolutely, because they wanted to support us. But we had a lot of members choosing to continue with the digital membership, and this was extremely important for us in order to, what I think is very important from a commercial point of view, is of course to continue to deliver on our vision, to make people healthy and happier, to make sure that our members could stay active even though our physical clubs were closed, but also to continue, so to say, being top of mind in our members' head by having a continued dialogue with them, especially through our app. So this is in Norwegian, but these are the different options we gave them and described to them. And these are just some screenshots from social media, where we actually got a lot of positive response in social media around the fact that, you know, we gave them options and they liked the way we communicated about this. But then of course it was important for us to deliver a strong digital offering, and we had been investing quite a lot the last 12 to 18 months in our digital platform. We have established our own internal technology team with strong data scientists and developers. So we had some digital, so to say, product offering, but not a lot. So basically we were just working 24/7 and with all the available resources we had in the organization to extend our digital offering. And now after just a few days, we were up and running with, you know, 10 live GX classes per day. We have and we have quite an extensive digital offering, as I will just show some examples on here. So we launched a digital delivery platform for our personal trainers, so they could continue to deliver hours to PT clients online. We do offer physiotherapy in some of our clubs, so we also launched a digital delivery platform for physiotherapy with there's a lot of restrictions you need to have on such a platform in order to be, you know, according to the medical standards, etc. And we also launched a platform for a lot of online nutritional advices and also one-to-one nutritional counseling. And then we launched the e-commerce offer, where we sold where you could buy, you know, the equipment you needed to do workouts at home, and also had, you know, collaborations with other suppliers on the platform. We also had a lot of webinars and a lot of digital training programs. We offered also audio programs and programs how to stay active and make sure that, you know, kept your mental health positive during the COVID crisis. And then we did, as I said, we had 150. We have now 150 digital workout programs. We have 120 online training classes that you could join from a library, and then we're running now, and we did that from day 3 after closing the clubs, 10 daily live GX classes, and we have had very high usage of this digital offering. So we have, as you can see here, had close to 1.5 million digital user sessions in April, March and April, close to 200,000 hours of completed online training. We have had around 1,200 participants in average per each of the 10 daily GX classes, and more than 300,000 participants in the using the online offering. So it's been quite a good period in terms of activating the members and to make sure that we keep in dialogue with the members and that they use our products. And then, of course, we've been focusing a lot on how to operate the clubs in the new normality, so to say, in Sweden, and then reopening the clubs with a lot of restrictions on our operations in Finland, and also planning the opening now in Norway. And I think, you know, here, some of the measures that Ronnie was describing is, of course, also relevant for us. We are not going that far that we have temperature checks of the members coming in, or using gloves, or using face masks, which is not that common in the Nordics. But of course, we have a lot of new operational routines. We are limiting the capacity in the GX classes, and make sure that, you know, social distancing could be ensured in all areas of the clubs, etc. And we've been running now the business for quite some weeks in Sweden and Finland, and see that, you know, this is working very well. And as we're also doing a lot of outdoor classes, as of course the weather in Scandinavia is now nice in the spring period. So we're running 30 to 50% of all our classes, GX classes, outdoor, to reduce the number of people entering the club at the same time. And here you can see the visit development in our clubs in Sweden and Finland respectively. So we are 4 weeks of stats for Finland, 8 weeks of stats for Sweden. And as you can see here, as also Herman and Ronnie was commenting on, we see that the starting point is quite similar, between 40 and 50% in the beginning, and it takes a few weeks before the members get used to the new situation. I think it's extremely important that the member experience in the club in the first few weeks after opening is very positive, in terms that, you know, you need to communicate very actively through the app, with email, through signs, and of course one-to-one with our staff. You have to communicate to the members all the things you're doing to make sure that the clubs are safe, and that we do a lot of measures to make sure that it's a safe club environment for members to work out in. And then gradually, as you can see here from the visit numbers, visits are coming back. And I think, you know, when it comes to the 85% levels we now see in Sweden, that's basically, to go much further than that is difficult with all the measures we have taken in order to secure social distancing in the clubs. So actually the demand is higher, but we don't have, it's difficult to push it further than this. And a lot, and actually the visits on the gym floor in the studio is actually quite at normal levels as pre-corona, because it's much more distributed throughout the days. So the peaks are not that strong in terms of the peak time visits during the day. And the reduction in the visits are coming from the GX, as you can see, where it's just because, you know, we are limiting the number of spaces per class. We are adding a lot of additional classes, but the total available GX capacity is just lower to ensure social distancing. And then, of course, we're taking a lot of measures in terms of signage, closing down every second treadmill, etc., to make sure that the gyms are safe. And then we also use our technology platform and our app to communicate with members, so they can live see at any point in time during the day how many visitors are at the moment in the different clubs. They get traffic lights, you know, red, yellow, green, on what's the capacity at the moment at the club, so they could choose another club close by. In Stockholm and Oslo city center, we have many clubs, many of them just, you know, a few hundred meters apart. So it's easy for them to choose a different club if one of the clubs are full, etc. And then just looking ahead, I think, you know, the situation we are in will affect us for a long time. I think, you know, we will live with government measures and regulations to ensure social distancing in a long time. I think we've seen a shift in member habits. I do believe that our industry will come back to good levels as we saw pre-corona. But I think, you know, members have been starting to work out at home, work out outside, work out with digital support in a larger extent than before corona. But I don't think this will in a way be replacing the physical visits in club, but I really believe it will be complementary. So I think, you know, we will come back, and then I really believe that, you know, what we have to focus on now as an industry is to continue to deliver on what we are motivated by, making sure that our members succeed with their training and working out. And we need to focus everything we can do now on bringing back the members that we have lost across all our markets, bringing back the members and make sure to give them a safe and good experience in our clubs and a good digital complementary offering. And then I believe, you know, we will be back on track sometimes in 2021, but it will take some time. So with that, I'll stop my presentation.
Fantastic, Sondre. Very insightful and very informative information there. Let me ask you one question before I go to questions from the audience. If you could do it over again, the closing and the reopening that you did in Sweden and the reopening you did in Finland, is there anything that you would do different based on your experience? As an advice also for other operators who still have to go through the reopening.
Sure. Now there's a lot of things that we would do different all the time, but I think, you know, two things worth mentioning. If possible, we should have pushed even harder on the digital offering early on and make it available for both members and non-members, because the adoption of this and the way this has built the brand for us and the brand awareness and the usage has been very positive, and we should have pushed it even harder. And then secondly, I don't think you can underestimate the importance of having very good operational routines in the clubs from the minute you open, because the first 2 weeks of member experience, when they come back to the clubs with a little bit of fear because of the situation they have gone through, it's extremely important that they feel that this is a safe club environment where you are a serious operator and you have taken the measures you should take to make sure that they can get a safe and good training experience. And if you succeed with giving this experience, the word of mouth will spread in the member base and you will see the visits coming back. And, you know, we did okay, but we could have done so much better. And we will when we open now in Norway and Denmark after Sweden and Finland, based on the learnings in Sweden and Finland.
Thank you very much, Sondre. Very, very wise advice. Ronnie, if I would ask you the same question, what would you say and what would you do different if you could do it all over again?
You know, I think Sondre actually covered one very important part about, you know, the operation excellence. You know, I think one of the key things that you know, I mentioned early on is that, you know, obviously making the space safe for your customer, and the communication part is very important, not the last minute type of thing, right? I think if something happens, you generally have a time frame, and you got to have that priority of how to ensuring what type of message going out there, making sure that your staff are aligned, they're all on the same page, so there's no different type of you know, communications. So I think the communication is critical. And the second part is, I would say, is the reinforcing the operation excellence, right? Because, you know, Sondre again touched that part as well, is that, you know, you have, if you talk about a big chain, have hundreds and thousands of members, okay, there's always a few people who would not want to go and want to let people go and see how they go first. They want to observe how it's going to like, right? So all you take is that few members, you know, that goes in first and, hey, you know what, this is a great place, and they start blasting in the social media, they tell all their friends, and because their word is the truth. What we say doesn't mean it's the truth, right? I think it's what the customer says is what everybody will listen to. So I think that's a critical part. I think from the operational standpoint, is in terms of the, you know, the group exercise. And that's one thing I would say that is very, very important, is that if this happened again, how I'm going to structure my group exercise classes that is suitable for this COVID type of situation is very, very important. Because if they're going to come back, they have limited slots, right? You want to make sure those classes are the one that can get people in and can be safe. Because, obviously recently you've seen in South Korea, there was one case that one club obviously have over 120 people got sick because they're in the group exercise classes. So that means, you have to very, very think carefully about what type of classes, the content of classes, how to teach those classes is very, very important. And then I think lastly is about, if you gotta, revise your strategy for the remaining of the year, you just gotta think about what's gotta be a fair number that's gonna be fair for your staff, fair for investors, and at the same time, gotta be very transparent and able to motivate your team to continue to drive throughout this tough time. Because I think right now a lot of people, have a little bit more demoralized mindset right now, right? I think for all the companies and as leaders for the industry, we have to ensure that we give that motivation to our staff, okay? So they can come to work, with positive mindset, so they can influence their members as well. I think that's actually very critical.
Thank you. Very good. I have a question here from the audience for Ronnie. And the question to Ronnie is, what is your sweat towel protocol? Are you allowing these or having the members use disposable paper towels? Okay,
so so we obviously during the COVID time we didn't offer any towel. Okay, so we have actually implemented many stations with a lot of a sanitizer towel there as well, so for member to use, and we recommend our member to bring their own towel.
Okay, thank you. There's another question here for both of you. Digital offering doesn't work for all concepts, i.e. Pilates, Reformer, etc. Can you identify demographic age groups that was more receptive to digital than others? Ronnie, would you like to go first on that?
Well, I think, we talk about on behalf of China here, we find it more like a younger generation crowd. What we have seen very successful for group exercises is definitely yoga classes, okay? You find yoga a lot more easier. Anyone have a, like a ½ meter by 2 meter mat. Anyone can have that space in the house. So we start seeing a huge boom in the online yoga offering, okay? And then in terms of our home exercises, it's quite limited as well, depending, it's like, like a functional training, that sort of stuff, we're seeing more. But you definitely seeing it go towards the younger generation rather than the senior citizens that go on to the online platform. That's what we have seen.
Thank you. Sondre, what would your answer be to that question?
When it comes to just the demographics, we see actually in terms of age, we see a quite distributed usage. So it's not only the younger members using this, but of course it's very much skewed to female members. In general, I think group training for all the ones listening to this call and operating fitness clubs, you see a higher share of female members joining those classes, and this is even more skewed digitally. When it comes to what type of concepts, it's a wide range. I think it's but of course the functional training like cross training, these different type of core programs and also yoga classes have been the most popular and most used ones for us as well. And we try to do most of the digital classes without equipment to make sure that the barrier to take the class is pretty low.
Yeah, very good. There is a question here which says, hello, will this be posted on YouTube? So what's the channel? I think, Bob, what is the channel for the YouTube?
Yeah, it's FIBO USA is our YouTube channel, and it will be posted tomorrow. Same, okay. It will be on our FIBO USA website as well.
Yeah. I have another question for both of the panelists because we're almost running out of time, but I think this is a good one. So how, if you have to boil down in maybe 2 or 3 bullet points, how will the industry be different post-COVID? Ronnie, would you like to go first on that one?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, what I can foresee, like after the COVID, will the industry truly be changing? I don't think so. I think, you know, we will get back to normal, because to be honest, you know, the industry been along for a long time, right? But what I can foresee is that, you know, it will forces a lot of business to focus more operation efficiencies. Okay, your basically the quality assurance, maybe a newer design of the club that, you know, matching more, you know, more safety for the members. And I can see like a lot of investment in terms of, you know, customer engagement programs, you know, big data analysis, you know, member engagement. But you talk about product, I can't foresee any majority main changes. Okay, there will be business, you know, obviously, you know, maybe partnering up with, you know, online platform type of fitness to create a common product together. But that's gonna be very limited because online product will be a industry of its own, right? And gym is an industry of itself. But what I can foresee is that maybe you're seeing like, you know, there's businesses like a mom and pop shop, the one that have less of cash flow, less operating excellence. These will be facing a lot of challenge in time ahead. But eventually, big operators with a lot stronger background will probably absorb these type of businesses. But overall, I think the growth opportunity is still going to be there. Definitely here in China and Asia as well. And I'm sure the global presence of fitness is going to be stronger, because I think through the COVID, more and more people got to be more aware about living healthy and living strong, right? And I think our industry got to get more recognitions, I would say. But it all come down to how well every businesses gotta take their service, their product, you know, to a next level to meet that demand. So I think the demand's got to be higher in the future. We just got to innovate and maintain a great, excellent service to provide that, to supply to that demand.
Excellent. Sondre, what is your take on how will the industry be different post-COVID?
I very much, you know, echo what Ronnie said, but I will be brief given the time. But I don't think it will change, but I think it will accelerate what we saw before COVID, the key trends we saw before COVID. And I think, you know, I think I'm an optimist on behalf of our industry, because I really believe that living a healthy lifestyle and the importance of staying healthy has been, you know, now very clear for people. So I think, you know, we have a bright future in our industry because we are doing a good thing for society, and that's to keep people active. But then I think, you know, you need to the importance of giving a good member experience every time they visit the clubs. So the importance of motivating, helping out the members, but also the devil's in the details of the operational routines. Make sure that the members get a good experience every time they visit us. And then I think, you know, you need to have a digital relationship to your members. Maybe not, you know, the fully competitive digital product offering as Ronnie was commenting on, but you need to have the insight and the ability to communicate in a personalized digital way with the members in order to activate them. And if you do that in a good way and make sure they get a fantastic experience every time they visit your clubs, it's a bright future ahead of us.
Amen. I was going to say, I totally agree with both of you. I'm an optimist myself, having been, you know, 25 years in the industry. Yes, this is a tough time, but we've had crises before and we've come out of them stronger. And I think all the fundamentals of this sector have not changed. In contrary, as you say, the fundamentals have been reinforced for the future. So the time is up. I would like to thank Bob for hosting this webinar. Thank you very much. Ronnie, thank you very much. You know, burning the midnight oil in Shanghai. Sondre, thank you very much for your time. I know both of you guys are very busy, and taking this time out of your life for us is very, very much appreciated. Maybe lastly, there is of course FIBO in Cologne taking place from 1 to 3 October. It's going to be a smaller trade show. It is business to business only, no consumer element there. And we have the European Health and Fitness Forum on September 30 on the day before FIBO opens, with some very exciting speakers and an exciting program. And of course, we have FIBO US. Maybe Bob, you want to say a quick upshot of the FIBO US before we close?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank all the speakers today, and I personally feel very encouraged. I love the timelines. I saw around week 6, 80% of a rebound effect. I think that was very encouraging for our audience. But yes, FIBO USA, join us November 6th to the 8th in beautiful Miami Beach, Florida. And on November 6th, you will see the American Health and Fitness Forum, which is going to be moderated again by Herman Rutgers. So thank you very much for attending our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you all, and stay safe and go gangbusters for this industry. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.